It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you listen, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by Holiday Inn Properties. You got it, man. The Holiday Inn Properties. You know, if you want to stay at a Holiday Inn Express, you don't know, you're not a brain surgeon, but you did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Hey, get the Billy C discount. That's right. All you got to do is call toll-free 844-603-0364. That's 844-603-0364. Get a Billy C discount. If you're like me and you can't remember phone numbers, then don't worry about it. Just visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Holiday Inn banner. It's right there on the right-hand side. And today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. If you're looking to get a signed copy, don't worry about it. We'll hook you right up. Just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. That's all you got to do. Click on the book, and we'll get you a signed copy. Now, if you're looking to get multiple copies, which is great, we love those inquiries about getting multiple copies, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Excuse me. No. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about now today. First and foremost, my topic today, you know, I was saying, I've been saying for a long time, how the sanctioning bodies really have ruined the sport of boxing. It's not all them, because it's sort of like a weed on your lawn. You know, if you don't take it out, if you don't kill it, it's going to spread, right? Well, that's what's happened in the sport of boxing. We have all these sanctioning bodies, and we could have killed them. We could have strangled them by not using them and by not giving them any ground to stand on or putting any value behind them. But the greed factor, specifically with promoters and networks, we've given them that lifeline. And the WBA is the worst of the worst. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But I also got some updates on Tyson Fury. We got some updates on Ricardo Mayorga. Well, I don't know if that's an update or a down date. Dana White agreeing with what I think about Steven Espinosa. We'll talk about that. And we got all the fight results. So let's kick off the show right now. First, with the fight results. First and foremost, Jarrett Hurd became a unified junior middleweight or super welterweight, however you want to look at it, champion over the weekend in what I thought was an extremely exciting fight. Yeah, well, what were you waiting? You were waiting for something other than that. It was an exciting fight. Erslandy Lara, a quality fighter. Listen, when I watched Jarrett Hurd, it reminded me of one fighter. He reminds me of one fighter. And you know what fighter popped in my head when I watch him? George Foreman. A young George Foreman. Now, I'm not putting him on the same level as a Hall of Fame fighter like George Foreman, but his mannerisms, his approach to the game, his delivery of punches is the same as Big George used to be. Seek and destroy. Go ahead, hit me. I don't care, because I'm going to outlast you. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and I'm conditioned very well. And a young George Foreman is exactly what Jarrett Hurd did this past weekend to Erslandy Lara. Now, just for the record, I scored that fight 114-113 in favor of Erslandy Lara. And the reason I scored it in favor of Lara is because I thought that he landed the better punches. And a lot of the punches that were landed by Hurd were grazed or missed him a little or he caught him with his gloves. I mean, if you watch the fight specifically, a couple of times and watch the punches in slow-mo, try and do frame by frame or something like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. One other thing I noticed about the fight was the lack of Ronaldo Morello, Morelli Morello, the loudmouth yelling pain in the butt. That guy was not there. And how enjoyable was that fight, watching the fight and listening to a class group of people for Showtime. Barry Tompkins, Al Bernstein, Paulie Malignaggi. Listen, I'm not sure you're going to get a better trio than those three guys calling fights, okay? It proved once and for all, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Mario Ronaldo is a total jerk, and he ruins the broadcast. It actually took, I don't know if you noticed, but it actually took Al Bernstein and Paulie Malignaggi a round or two to get used to not getting cut off in the middle of their thought, or having him yelling and screaming about his stupid, what he thinks is funny. Instead, they had a guy that knows what he's talking about, that knows the sport, and lays down the questions and tosses the softballs up to the experts like Al Bernstein and Paulie Malignaggi. Let me tell you, it was an enjoyable fight to watch and listen to. Normally, Showtime events I don't listen to because I can't stand Ronaldo. But the truth of the matter was, the fight itself, extremely exciting. I gave the edge to Lara, but the way the judges scored it, and that's all that mattered, was 114-113. One judge had it for Lara. The other two scoring it at the same score, 114-113 for Jarrett Hurd. Hurd improves to 22-0 with 15 knockouts and is now the unified champion. Lara drops the third fight of his career, dropping to 25-3-2, and I believe Hurd is 23-0 now. Joining me right now from St. Simons is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, what'd you think of the fight?
I thought it was a tremendous fight. It was my kind of fight, and I loved it. I mean, these guys didn't have to look for each other. They were there, and I'll tell you, it was a battle of attrition. It was a good fight, and a very entertaining fight. And, I couldn't help but think while I was watching the fight, what you may be thinking with the same thing about the absence of Ronaldo. And because it was clear that, you heard Tompkins, you heard Paulie Malignaggi, Al Bernstein. I'll tell you what, you had a trifecta right there. They're three of the best. And to hear their comments without any fluff, and you're just delivering the stuff. I love to use that term. It was beautiful. It was great, and they have such an insight what's going on in the fight. They know boxing. They're boxing people, and it was a great thing to just hear. But what an entertaining fight it was, and I had the fight 115 to 113 for James Hurd. So that was a good fight.
It's Jared Hurd, but I thought that
Jared. You know what? Thank you for the correction.
No problem. I actually scored it for Lara 114, 113, and the reason I was explaining earlier is a lot of the punches. No disrespect to Jared Hurd, because I enjoy what I loved about this guy is he never stops going forward, and he was in superb conditioning. I mean, this guy did not tire. And I know you're running a little late today, but did you hear who I thought he reminded me of? Did you catch that?
No, I did not. No.
He reminds me, his style, the way he comes at you and the way he delivers his punches and stuff, and by no means am I suggesting that he's going to accomplish the same. But George Foreman, a young George Foreman, the way he would come in, seek and destroy. I mean, go watch some footage of him. That's the way he would deliver his punches. I mean, it's kind of awkward, but thudding. I don't know. I kept having relapses of a young George Foreman in that fight, Sal.
I could see where you could see that, and because he would have a combination, and he just would nonchalantly drop his hands and walk towards the opponent like a prey, and then start to get in position and bang away and do it. I could see where you could find that. Yes. And, like I said, my kind of fighter, he did a great job. I mean, he came to fight. He was always in the pocket, and he was in condition. I mean, when you see fighters trading shots and blowing, I mean, I'm going to tell you something, Bill. That's the kind of fight. These guys are going to feel this fight for about 2 weeks. And I'm telling you, they're gonna be having bruises, pains. They'll get over it. It'll be fine. It's gonna be like never happened. But the bottom line is, these guys are gonna think of each other for about 2-3 weeks right now when they are healing up and the bruises start to dissipate.
One thing I didn't understand from Lara's game is he was so effective when he was boxing. I mean, his counter punching and his hand speed were right there. I mean, just tagging Hurd almost at will. But then, for some reason, he decided to, make the fight off the ropes more, at least for the majority of the fight. And he was effective. I mean, he was counterpunching and stuff. But he put himself in a position where Hurd was able to work that body. And it paid dividends for Hurd, because towards the end of the fight, I'm not so sure Lara could move the way he should have been earlier in the fight. I was a little surprised at that game plan. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish, whether he was trying to show that he could hang in there with a bigger guy, and talk about bigger. I mean, this guy looked like a heavyweight fighting a middleweight. It was absurdly different in size. But at the end of the night, I actually thought Lara pulled it out because of the way his punches landed more flush. But I don't have a problem with the scores, because they were all the same. It was a close fight. One round ended up actually what decided it for the two of the three judges was the knockdown in that final round. And I wouldn't have been having much of a problem if the fight ended in a draw either, Sal.
No, and I understand that, and I did see Jared Hurd in the fight a little bit more dominant than maybe you saw, but that's just because I was also surprised about Lara. He was back on the ropes a lot, and he has great effective counterpunching, but I think with that game plan, I think he realized that this guy, he's hitting him with anything he can. And let's not forget that Jared Hurd is not a difficult target to hit. And, but when you are banging away and trying to keep your opponent off you and hitting him with shots you think that are going to, catch his attention, and the guy keeps coming at you, you start to think to yourself, well, maybe I got to change my game plan or something here. Maybe I got to have him tire out. Maybe I should just let him come at me. And, you think about these things. I don't know if his corner gave him any advice or anything there. As you suggested, maybe it was a closer fight. But when he got caught with that hook in the 12th round, I'll tell you, that pretty much sealed the deal for a lot of people.
Hey, speaking of corner, I don't know if you noticed, but Ronnie Shields was in the corner of Erslandy Lara. Now, Lara is a guy who needed an interpreter to do an interview. But yet Ronnie Shields was the guy giving him in between round instructions in English. I was wondering if there, and I couldn't pick it up on the mic, but I don't know if there was a guy interpreting what Ronnie was saying, or if Lara can understand English, just can't speak it. But either way, maybe that was a problem, Sal, because he didn't seem to make adjustments. He didn't seem to fight the smart fight. I mean, after 2 or 3, maybe even 4 rounds, you're hitting this guy, landing flush with everything you got, and he's not. It's like this reoccurring dream I have all the time about that. But it's not affecting him. It's not affecting him. You got to go to plan B, which is, hey, use your feet, use your hand speed, use your accuracy, and win the fight on the scorecards. I mean, it almost seemed like Lara was going for the knockout early on and then just was in survival mode. I don't know. But I don't know if he was listening to Ronnie Shields. Ronnie Shields was saying a lot in between rounds, and I couldn't really decipher whether Lara was listening and doing what he was saying, or whether he was just nodding and doing what he's used to doing.
Well, and you said something very significant. Having communication between a competent cornerman or trainer and his fighter. Basically, you hear fighters often referred to, and I was just as guilty. Oh, we're going to do this, or we saw that, because you almost feel, there's that close-knit relationship you have with your trainer, and he's part of the we're going to do. We are going to do that, this, that, everything else. The bottom line is, if there is a communication barrier or gap that they do not communicate and understand each other's language, yeah, you're going to have definitely some holes to counter. And, for that intents and purposes, for all that intents and purposes, yeah, there's got to be somebody interpreting. However, I'm not sure what the level of English he knows or understands, and maybe just can't speak it. I don't know. It's like, sometimes I can understand Italian. I just don't know how to explain it or talk about it too much,
After the fight, a couple of quotes. Lara says, besides the last round, I thought I was winning this fight easily. That's not to decide the fight, meaning the knockdown. I was winning the fight. One punch in a fight doesn't determine it. It was a great fight for the fans. I stood there. I fought. It was fun. I thought I clearly won this fight. Once again, the decision goes against me. But, hey, we just have to do the rematch.
Yes.
First of all, it was a close fight. I mean, like I said, I do agree with one judge. I scored the fight 114-113. I was I was kind of focusing on the punches that Jarrett Hurd was throwing. He clearly threw more punches, yes. And according to the statistics, which are just somebody else's opinion, they're subjective. He landed more, but the truth of the matter is a lot of those punches that were being counted as landed were not landing flush. But every time Lara seemed to throw a punch, and especially when he threw a 1-2 combo, they would both land boom, boom, square. I mean, it was beautiful. But I'm okay with the scores. I'm okay because it was a close fight. It could have gone any way. Some of those close rounds, I score it one way, a judge scores it another. Hurd said it was a tough one, but I went out there and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I fought all 12 rounds and I got the victory. I didn't feel like I needed the knockdown. I feel like I was in control the whole fight, applying pressure. Well, you see, that line right there is where the scoring differences come in, Sal. Being aggressive and throwing punches doesn't and shouldn't always automatically mean you get the W. You got to be aggressive, but effective aggression is the word. So effective aggression means you got to land the punches. Now, I'm not saying he didn't, because Lara looked busted up for the first time in his career. But it's not just about going forward. You gotta land punches. I loved the fight, and judging by the comment from Lara, it seemed that at least he was smart enough, and his team was smart enough to put a rematch clause in the contract. Since both were champions, I would love to see what the what the contract stated, if they both had the option of a rematch or what.
Well, it's a good point, and I know what you're saying also with the ebb and flow of the fight, and I think effective aggression or being as such that yes, you'd like to see those punches land, but I think also, to Hurd's credit, being effective and just moving forward and being constantly on top of your opponent can be very tiresome and very frustrating when you see you're hitting this guy, you're countering with some good punches, you're hitting him clean, and the guy is still in front coming at you. And so in essence, that's another form of being somewhat effective in aggression. Maybe not so much with every punch landing crisp, clean, and hurting you, but I think just you could take a fighter's heart away, or you could definitely frustrate the heck out of him. And I think that was effective on Jarrett Hurd's part. Like I said, I saw the fight in my eyes. I think I just saw Hurd a little more dominant. And I'll tell you what, I'll go on record right now. There should be a rematch, but I think Jarrett Hurd will win in a little more dominant fashion next time out too. I think he's got his number.
You see, the funny thing is if they have a rematch, I think Lara's going to win, and I'll tell you why. I think that he will fight a smarter fight, in and out, nail a couple of shots, get out of harm's way, a la Floyd running Mayweather. A guy like that. It's not as exciting as we got, but that's how Lara could win that fight against a big, strong guy like Hurd. But I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a very entertaining fight, and it's funny to hear both guys feeling how easily they won, and it certainly wasn't an easy fight for either fighter. No. But I think Lara, he said it was fun in there. I don't know, man. He seemed like I wonder how he's thinking this morning, like you suggested earlier. He's probably having a hard time breathing, and maybe a little blood is leaking out of some areas. But go
ahead. I was going to say it's like Rocky Balboa said in the movie, my whole body feels like a headache.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we got the rest of the fight results from that card, and also some other big fights coming in about 2 minutes.
BILLYC will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax $10,000, has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BILLYCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BILLYCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BILLYCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And we're talking about the fights that took place over the weekend. We just got done talking about the Jarrett Hurd victory to unify a couple of the belts, which I'll get to a little bit later. That's one of my pet peeves today. I got the WBA, man. What a bunch of clowns. And this was a WBA fight as well. But also on that card, James DeGale regained his IBF super middleweight title by beating Khalib Truax in what I thought was kind of I thought it was a close fight. I mean, we had some weird scores. Well, one weird score. Two of the judges scored the fight 114, 113, and one judge scored the fight 117 to 110, all in favor of DeGale. Now, DeGale was landing the better punches, and Truax was an example of a guy who was being aggressive but wasn't being effective aggression. He did bust up DeGale. DeGale did headbutt him a couple of times unintentionally, and then finally, just as a payback, it seemed that the referee ruled a accidental headbutt as a punch, and DeGale bled for the whole fight. I think Robert Byrd should consider hanging him up. He's not refereeing that well anymore. But as far as the fight, DeGale squeaked by another victory. Khalib Truax is nothing special. If I'm DeGale, I would consider walking away as a champ right now. What'd you think of that fight, Sal?
Yes, I did see majority of the highlights in there. And I did see DeGale dominant. I thought he definitely won the fight, and I could see where you make a point that maybe he should just try to wrap it up and stuff. He definitely looked good at points, and he I thought he definitely won the fight, and I called it the other day, and I thought that he was going to do that, and he's an older fighter now, but I thought that his heart desire wanting to regain that title would show through the end, and it did.
Well, the truth of the matter is Truax is just not. I mean, he's a gutty guy. He comes at you. He's strong, very limited in skills, and DeGale is a guy that's been in there with some tough fighters. Normally, the youth would hold out and win, similar to the Hurd-Lara fight, and also the other fight that was on the card that we got to see on TV. Julian Williams improved to 25-1 with a draw when he won a 12-round majority decision over the Stanley Gallimore. I don't know. This fight was a hard one to score. Williams was, again, the bigger guy in the ring. His punches seemed to do more damage than Gallimore's punches did on him, but Gallimore seemed to counterpunch better. This was another tough one to score. You know, the trend I see is guys that are becoming proficient, and they have these nutritionists joining their teams at shedding the weight for the weigh-in, then hydrating up to monstrous sizes. And we saw that again, J-Rock against Gallimore. But this is a guy that's very limited in the junior middleweight division. It was an elimination fight. So depending upon what the contract stated for the Hurd-Lara fight for the IBF side, the winner, which was J-Rock, now earns a shot at Hurd. I don't think he stands a chance. No disrespect to Julian Williams, but he's just a very limited fighter, Sal.
Well, yeah, I don't see him making much progress against an opponent like Hurd, and he has some moments there, and but like you said, if you're going to be multi-dimensional, you have a little bit more you can offer your opponent in different rounds as far as to look at, and you do the body, you want to box, you want to slug, you want to do this, but a one-dimensional fighter is a little bit more predictable, a little bit more methodical and just breaking down or so. So, it's a tough challenge ahead for him, but we'll see what he can do. Never discount anybody that steps in that squared circle.
I want to give a great shout out to our he's practically supporting the show on his own, Joseph Olson, just with another super chat. It says we should do some collaborations with other YouTube channels. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, man. I appreciate the super chat, but unless somebody reached out to me and made it worth our while, and I don't mean money-wise, I just mean with a cross-promotion deal, I don't know. I don't know. I hate to say this, and I really don't want to get into this because I don't want to turn anybody off, but the truth of the matter is that I don't look at other shows as competition to us, and I'll tell you why. I know we're small on YouTube compared to some of the others, but that's not our main gig. We try to present our show in a professional manner where I don't see it with other shows. And quite honestly, I don't really even watch them, but a lot of them are very hackish. That's all I'm going to say. But thanks, Joseph. I appreciate it. Also on that card, I never liked Sergio Mora. Ever. Never liked this guy. I mean, you know what? We'll tell you this. He's a pretty good commentator, but, as an analyst. But never liked him in the ring. And him and Alfredo Angulo, who was a very limited fighter, but an exciting fighter, fought. And, the winner was going to get another shot, even though they're both, in the twilights of their career. But the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora, won a split decision over Angulo. He improved to 29-5-2. Angulo drops to 24-8 with 20 knockouts. 77-75 for Angulo, but then two of the other judges scored at 78-74 in favor of Mora. A couple other fights I just want to mention real quickly. In a fight that actually, again, you always got to go to other countries to see these kinds of fights, and this is why American boxing is falling deeper and deeper into the abyss. Two top 5 contenders fought each other in Australia on Saturday. Contenders Dennis Hogan and Jimmy Kelly, both in the junior middleweight division, fought each other, and Hogan came out on top to improve to 27-1 with a draw, and Jimmy Kelly drops the second fight of his career. He's now 23-2. The way the judges scored at 119-109, and two of them had it 117-113. These are the kinds of fights that I like to see, Sal. Two young fighters going at it without worrying about the ramifications or repercussions from it. That's how you climb the ladder in the sport. What's your thought?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's old school. That's what we like to see, and that's That's basically how you do it. You look at the people above you and you try to fight them and pull them off the ring. Pull them off the rung and climb up above them. That's the way it used to be.
Well, it's the way it should be now too. Still,
it should be.
I think
it should be. I got $100,000. I want to slip you under the table. Where do you think you can put me?
That's exactly what they do. One other fight I wanted to mention, and I'm actually mentioning this really for our buddy Joel. I know he got it. Rodolfo Gomez improved to 13 wins, 4 losses, and a draw when he stopped former world champion Ricardo Mayorga in the 8th round Saturday night in Texas. Mayorga drops to 32 wins, 11 losses, and a draw. 45 years old. He's now lost 2 fights in a row via by knockout. So, it's over for him. It was over for him years ago, Sal. I mean, obviously he needs some money. Remember, if you guys don't remember Ricardo Mayorga, he was the cigar-smoking, beer-drinking fighter that Don King had for years. I mean, I would assume he's not training seriously now either. What do you think?
Well, I can't speak for him, but history, usually repeats itself on a lot of levels. It's seldom do we really take what we used to do and try to reinvent the wheel, if that's our comfort zone, if that's our habits, if that's our lifestyle. So maybe, hey, like I said, you can't discount a change or new leaf or something else happening. So, we'll see how that develops. We'll see. The same thing we're going to find out about Tyson Fury when he gets back in the ring, if and when.
Funny you should mention that because I'm gonna talk about that in a second. First things first, we're gonna take a short break, and then when I come back, I'm gonna tell you why I feel that the WBA, the World Boxing Association, is what's wrong with boxing today. It's deeper than them, but they definitely lead the pack. We'll be back in 2.
BILLYC will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology used to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative 3-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Coachella, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite past and present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the bank scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-6 1673. 800-624-1673. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. You know, I said one of my main topics today was how awful. No, let me use another choice of word. Horrific is much better than that the WBA is, the World Boxing Association. Now, before I get started on my rant, I just want to say this, and I said it in the beginning of the show. Sanctioning bodies have really aided to the demise of the overall popularity of the sport of boxing. Now, hear me out, because a lot of young fans, and I remember one fan specifically several years back trying to make an argument that the more the belts, the better. And he was trying to say that, gives fighters a better chance to make more money and blah, blah, blah. But because of his age, he doesn't understand that the basic principles of anything, business, supply and demand. So by having more belts, you're devaluing the whole objective of obtaining a belt. And with that said, it was easy for us, when I say us, the sport of boxing, to choke out these unnecessary sanctioning bodies. We could have done it, but we didn't. As a matter of fact, we gave it a lifeline. That lifeline was letting our fighters fight for their belts. The truth of the matter is now it's gotten so bad that a promoter doesn't feel he can promote a fight card without a title on the card. A television network, at least here in the States, feel that they can't broadcast an event unless there's a title on it. They don't care what title it is, as long as they get to promote that there's a title on the card. And the sad part about it is half the guys or gals making the decision that, which fights they're going to put on, et cetera, don't even know about the sport of boxing. They're just going by what a record may look like, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's one fight that we all want to see right now. There's one. If I asked even a marginal boxing fan, a casual boxing fan, hey, which fight you want to see? They're all going to say the same fight. What is it, Sal?
It's going to be Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder.
Exactly. And not only is that a good fight in terms of the two combatants, but it's also a great fight for the sport itself. So here we have Anthony Joshua, currently the WBA champion, the IBF champion, the WBO champion now, and the IBO champion. And Deontay Wilder, he's the WBC champion. So don't bother taking your socks and shoes off. That equals 5, and those are the 5 sanctioning, major sanctioning bodies. The WBA, and it happened, we knew this last week when we were talking about it, but I didn't realize the extent. Alexander Povetkin was given a a layup in his last fight. And I say a layup because David Price has proven to be nothing more than a human punching bag. And Alexander Povetkin, no disrespect to him, but he has definitely seen better days. Well, nonetheless, he moved himself to become the mandatory world title challenger for the WBA with his victory, and it was a brutal knockout over David Price 2 weeks ago on the undercard of Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker. Here's where my hang-up lies. We're all waiting anxiously to have the deal set between AJ and Deontay, and all of a sudden, the WBA comes in and gives Anthony Joshua 30 days to negotiate with Alexander Povetkin. Otherwise, they're stripping him of the WBA belt. Now, the other part of this scenario is that he has to fight by September. This sounding familiar? I mean, these are all the dates that we were hoping for a while to fight.
Yeah.
Here's my hang-up, okay? I get it about mandatories. I get it. But you know what? Sanctioning bodies should recognize the value of having a unified champion. At least let them unify before you strip. Here's the worst part about the WBA. The WBA has the you-know-whats to demand this when Anthony Joshua is technically their super champion in the heavyweight division. They have a regular champion. His name is Manuel Char. They already have a mandatory fight with him and Frezequendo, who hasn't stepped in the ring for over 3 years. Over 3 years. He's 45 years old. So you're going to tell me that a reputable sanctioning body who has a guy, Manuel Char, not many people even know who he is, but he was just a journeyman type heavyweight, fighting Frezequendo, who hasn't fought inside a ring for over 3 years. He's 45 years old, and he's lost every title chance he's ever had. That's a mandatory. And all of a sudden, Alexander Povetkin is going to cause a stripping of a super title. Now, a super title, boys and girls, was supposed to mean a guy who has more than one belt in these divisions. The regular title was the title that, and maybe I'm wrong, but that was supposed to be the one where mandatories fight, and then the super champion has to fight that guy. How Alexander Povetkin gets thrown into the mix that could potentially ruin a showdown is beyond me. What makes it worse, Hearn says, the WBA is forcing us to fight Povetkin next. We got to make this negotiation happen within 30 days. It means it's very likely that Anthony's next fight will be between Wilder or Povetkin. With a mandatory challenge being set, Joshua and his camp will either need to fight Povetkin next, agree to a step-aside deal with Povetkin, which could see the Russian face Dillian White, or vacate Anthony Joshua's WBA belt altogether. Povetkin says that he only wants to fight Joshua. Povetkin said, I'm the challenger for the championship. I really look forward to this moment where I can fight with the strongest in the world. Now Anthony Joshua has 4 belts. I really want this fight. I'm not even going to think about proposals to box with other rivals or take step-aside money. Sal, wow. What's your thoughts, man?
Well, depending on how large of an amount that step-aside money may be, because cash talks on that level, and concessions to bargain a couple of months might persuade him differently. We'll see. I can't speak for any fighter or anybody as an individual, but the bottom line is it's politics as usual in the sport of boxing. And even though the number one fight we want to see is the showdown between 2 great heavyweights that are the most prominent ones today holding belts, and that, as we know, is Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. But the politics may not allow that. And that's why I say, Bill, if this fight doesn't take place in 2018, this fight may never take place because of all the different ins and outs of what sanctioning bodies are going to demand from these 2 champions as far as mandatories and everything else. And can they afford to be stripped of their titles and still fight in the sport of boxing and a big showdown? Sure they can, because their presence, their skill set, their level of accomplishments are what the fans are wanting to see. And it doesn't matter if they have a belt right now, but the bottom line is they do. And with that becomes an automatic endorsement, becomes something else that's bigger than what they are right now. So I don't think they're going to want to forfeit belts, but if they have to forfeit one or two and get in the ring, we'll see. Each man's an individual. I can't speak for them, but as far as the step aside money and the Povetkin, hey, like I said, if the money is large enough, I'm sure he can turn a cheek as long as he knows he'll fight for the next guy in line.
This is also a guy that's been busted for steroid use a couple of times.
That's right.
This is also a guy that seems to get all these crazy, weird scenario victories in Russia. Remember, this is the guy. This is the guy who fought the guy with the neck. Remember, the guy breaks his neck practically in the ring, and they start doing physical therapy on him. That was the most ridiculous scenario I ever witnessed. And they paused action for several minutes, like 6 minutes, not just a couple, it's like 6 minutes. And then they let him fight, and Povetkin couldn't even knock the guy out. He went the distance with his neck cracked over to the side. I just think it's terrible that the WBA is even doing this. I mean, listen, you could say what you want about the WBC. The WBC, they act like they are the sport of boxing. There's nothing else. But at least they are usually very workable when it comes time to unification. And here you have two fighters that at least seemingly want to fight each other in AJ and Deontay Wilder. So, I mean, you see if that fight can happen, because the benefit, listen, the sanctioning bodies, all they care about is the sanctioning fees. So let me ask you something. Wouldn't the WBA be in a better position to collect more of a percentage of a fee if they let the fight between Deontay Wilder and AJ happen versus a fight between AJ and Povetkin? I mean, don't get me wrong. AJ is still going to generate the money he generates for fighting whoever, but against Deontay Wilder, that's going to generate a hell of a lot more money than Alexander Povetkin, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think so. So it's like I said. Cash is king in a fight game, and the others fall into place, and may bide some time. But we're looking for the one and only fight that is going to satisfy a lot of appetites right now. And what we have to do to get it to come to fruition is going to be a lot of juggling of the monies and juggling of the sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, it's a shame because. The sport, and I say this all the time, the sport of boxing needs unity, not division. And the sanctioning bodies try their hardest to keep it divided because they want their claws in the cash cows. It's a shame because right now we are in a spot with the sport of boxing that is putting us back 30 years in terms of popularity, et cetera, et cetera. We have the players and the fighters, so to speak. We have some interest. We've gotten rid of the boring fighters, or at least the main boring fighter. He's gone. So and what's happened is a lot of these young fighters are picking up the torch, and it's almost like they went back in time because they want to fight each other. They're fighting exciting. Listen, Lara was a great example of that this past weekend. Here's a guy, traditional Cuban fighter, who uses boxing skill and movement and boxing ability to win fights. And what does he do? He made it a priority to be in an exciting fight. That didn't work out well for him in terms of the wins and losses, but he definitely put on a great show, and the people are talking about that fight. And isn't that what we need in the sport of boxing, Sal? People talking about it on Monday mornings.
Well, that's how we keep the sport alive and thrive. And it's the water cooler talk, the parlor talk. Well, that's an old term. And just to have it out there. Hey, did you see this fight this past weekend? Wow, did you see that guy? Wow, he did this. He did. That's the kind of talk that drives with momentum, and you magnify it, and it grows and grows, and that's what fight fans used to do all the time in the past, and I think they're starting to catch on and do it now. I'm hearing more revitalization and interest in boxing, and I live in Georgia, where predominantly they're an MMA kind of fan base. But we are really definitely making an imprint and showing some good sides of interest in boxing, including our radio show being localized over here. We're getting a lot of boxing fans that are coming to the table here.
I got to give a shout out to my man Johnston, who once again, I love this super chat. I'm glad Willie made me do it. These guys are putting their money where their mouth is, and Johnston just gave us a super chat, and he wants me to say, if AJ is serious about fighting Wilder, then he should let the WBA strip him. He will have a chance to claim it back again next year.
That's right.
I agree with Johnston.
I agree.
I think that both Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, because of the publicity and because of the fanfare, are above the belts. Floyd Mayweather was above the belt. Manny Pacquiao was above the belt. Big names throughout the history of the sport became above the belts, which means fans still want to see them, whether there's a belt on the line or not. This is where the sanctioning bodies shoot themselves in the foot. They're so dependent on the spineless, gutless, promoter and the network exec that they got to have a title, that's what they're putting their bank on. What they need to do, listen, the powers that be, which are the fighters, if they start saying, forget, I'm not, Floyd Mayweather hadn't paid a sanctioning fee in years. I ain't paying a sanctioning fee, but they all let him fight, didn't they? Because they used him as an advertisement for their belt. Well, you know what? I think it would work counterproductively for the WBA if Anthony Joshua says, no, I'm trying to make a fight against Deontay Wilder, the fight that the fans want, the fight that me and Deontay Wilder want. So forget you, WBA. You can have juiced up Povetkin and Manuel Char and Frez Aquendo beat the shit out of each other for your worthless piece of garbage belt. Go ahead. That's what I would say if I was Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. What's your thoughts?
Well, like you were suggesting, hey, these guys right now, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, they are what I would say are the leaders of the heavyweight division on top. And I think each of these two fighters could have a 2, tops maybe 3-year reign at the top of their game, and reclaiming, refighting, revisiting a title or a belt here or there that may be stripped, I think is always going to be in a mix. And I think they both have a good solid 2 to 3 years on the top before there's too many chinks in the armor or inability to keep climbing or so. I think that with that being said, those belts that get stripped are always going to be available for them to reattain, and I think they should give the fight fans what we want, and that's a showdown between two undefeated fighters that are claiming to be the world heavyweight champions, and that's what you're saying, Bill. This is possibly bigger than the sport itself right now of boxing. Have people really make a statement, say, hey, you know what? You can strip me of this. We're going to give the fans what we want, and we'll reclaim that belt when the time comes.
Give a shout out to my man Joel. He just gave us a super chat. He says, let's see Mayorga fight on. I'll keep ordering. I guess he's a masochist. I don't know. Joel, you're a funny guy, man.
Gotta love Joel.
Yeah, but I just, when I see this kind of stuff, and I see, right in the heat of negotiation and fan publicity, so to speak, the way the fans are talking about it, the hype that's generated, and all the positives about the sport of boxing. And then the WBA has to come out and try to flex their muscle. It's what's wrong with the sport. And as much as Anthony Joshua wants all the belts, and so does Deontay, all the fighters want all the belts, I think it's time that boxing unifies themselves as a sport and says, listen, are we going to be continued to be puppets? Because that's what's happened with the sport of boxing. Throughout the history of the sport, you could make an argument that fighters have always been puppets. They've been the fighters that have been taken advantage of by management, by promoters throughout the history of time, and they've been puppets. But at least they learned through the misadventures of a lot of fighters of yesteryear of what not to do. Fighters that give their all in the ring and die penniless, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now, fighters seem to be going down a better path in terms of financial thought process and investment opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. Well, why not continue that where you improve it for the fighter? Why don't we cut that puppet string once and for all and make a stand against the sanctioning bodies? Boxing doesn't technically need the sanctioning bodies, or we certainly don't need as many. Everybody laughs at me when I say about the IBO. The IBO, when you think about it, is really the best sanctioning body. And the reason why I say this is because their ranking system is based on a computer, not payoffs. They don't have interim champions. They don't have champions in recess. They have the guy who beat the guy. They're champions. They don't even have mandatories. Their champions become a champion, and then they got to defend the title. End of story. That's basically what a champion does. Now, you could add to that they have to be a contender. But think about that. When you're dealing with the IBO, you're dealing with computerized contenders. That means a computer is figuring out who number one, number two, number three is based on their opposition and their opposition's opposition and their opposition's opposition. So they're going that deep into it. When you're dealing with the other sanctioning bodies, it's just like what Sal said earlier. How much money can you put in my checking account to make your fighter miraculously appear in our mandatory position to fight the champion? Better yet, we'll strip the guy if he doesn't fight you. And that's what's happening. It's time for the fighters and the sport and the fans to cut the string. The WBA should be made an example of, just like Canelo Alvarez was just recently made an example of about being a cheater. What's your thoughts, Sal?
Well, my thoughts. I think, I'll say it again. We borrow Bupo Mancini, my old buddy's words. Hey, there's one world. Why can't we have one sanctioning body? And last I checked it, hey, he's still right on. And let's form our own little thing. Why don't we become another sanctioning body? We'll call it the WBBS, World Boxing Bill and Sal. And you know what? We'll go back to 15 rounds. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll take all the world champions today, and we'll rank them in our top 10, and we'll have them show down and fight. That's I'm saying that just to say that. That's sometimes with the millions of dollars behind invested in these things, how these bodies are legitimately formed and sanctioned bodies come about. So it's easy to see, we have the process of boxing, and to recognize one world champion or each sanctioning body's world champion is why we are so blinded by the rhetoric and the confusion and the whole thing that boxing once stood for. We had the weight classes that could define who their champion was representing, and that weight class. And it's just too much today. And it's, I don't know, Bill. I wish it was a little easier, a little less complex than all these sanctioning bodies trying to chip in and call the rules of boxing. Boxing is one of the oldest sports. It started back centuries ago and evolved to where it is today. But how far has it really come?
It's a good point. How far has it really come? It's the same. It's the same stuff. My book about Tom Molyneux. His big fight, his world title fight, was in 1810. And aside from the styles, everything else is pretty much the same corruption and et cetera, et cetera. You know, the one advantage that Dana White and the UFC had is that they formed a league. And it's the same thing we have with other league sports, whether you're dealing with American football or baseball or basketball or hockey or soccer, there's a league. And in order to be a team, to be part of that league, there's rules and regulations that you have to follow. Well, Dana White was in a great position when he had the foresight to design a league and set up a league in MMA's infancy as a professional sport. And today, it's a very powerful league. And boxing, people are very quick to say, oh, well, just let's form a league. Well, no. You know, I've had people reach out to me many times. It's time for you to support a boxing union. We got to have a union for the fighters. All of that is a great idea. The problem is you can't expect to just have it happen overnight. And the reason is because there'll be someone with a large bank account that'll get someone to cross over. If it's a union, then all of a sudden the guy will fight outside the union because of the money situation. If it's a sanctioning body, all of a sudden this guy gets a chance to fight for a world title, big money on a cable network, and he jumps ship. So it's hard to really enforce everything we're saying. Everybody agrees with what we're saying. But I would be shocked if somebody tried to give me a counterpoint on what we're saying. The only people that could really do it are the people that are in control of the sport. And the people that are in control of the sport are three groups of people: the fighters themselves, the management, which consists of managers and promoters, and the television networks. Those are the three groups of people involved in the sport of boxing today that can definitely squeeze out the sanctioning bodies, or at least get them to play nice. You know, they attempted to play nice when they all came up with super champions or diamond-studded champions. That was their way of letting a fighter unify a belt and still be able to make a big revenue stream by having their regular champions. And you know, although the WBA is so stupid that they call their regular champion a regular champion, the WBC at least calls it something else, you know, the diamond champion. But now they're the greed factor is, and here's what makes it all worse. The WBA said that they were going to eliminate all that BS. And so you got the WBA, who currently has a super champion, a regular champion, an interim champion, and I'm not sure if they have a champion in Murtai or a champion in recess. But those are technically 5 championships that you can have in the same division within one sanctioning body. It's terrible. And until these guys take their claws out of the sport, it's never going to be a unified sport. It's got to be unified. We can't get a government-run commission. We can't get a league set up. We can't get a union set up. All of that they're all great ideas, but very hard to accomplish. But what we can accomplish is a little more unity. Hey, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I got some other things that I want to talk about. I got some emails. We got some news. We're busy, man. Don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BILLYCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you! I hate you!
That's BILLYCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And I tell you, you think the WBA is the only one that maybe could go see a shrink or something. How about Frank Warren, Sal? Because Frank Warren said that Tyson Fury would beat Anthony Joshua right now. Said he would jab him silly. Frank Warren said, "For me, Fury is head and shoulders above the rest and far superior operator, even though he's still got a lot to prove again." Could you see Joshua controlling Tyson like he did Joseph Parker? I can't see it. He would jab him silly. In fairness to him, Joshua did mention Tyson in his post-fight interviews, and it's becoming more and more obvious that AJ is about the only sane one there. I would question Frank Warren's senility if he really thinks that Tyson Fury at this stage. And let's make no mistake, the biggest problem that Anthony Joshua has today, at least what I can see with his performances, Sal, is when he fights a shorter guy, he struggles. But when he fights a guy the same size or taller, he takes care of business. Tyson Fury's still 500 pounds, never really possessed the punching power that a man of his size could. And I don't see Tyson Fury, even if he was in his best, beating Anthony Joshua.
No, neither do I, and that's why they could say all they want to say because they're not in the ring. I see Anthony Joshua totally dismantling Tyson Fury bit by bit, and that's what I see. It's my opinion. I just see that Tyson Fury, he's got a lot to get back into the ring and prove, even to deserve a shot to step in a ring with Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. And I think even though he is big and undefeated and can fight, I just see these guys that have had some continuity, some momentum going in and just totally outboxing, outpunching, outscoring, and outlasting Tyson Fury.
Well, Tyson, listen, I was a big fan of Tyson Fury. He could definitely box and move it, but his advantage was similar to Klitschko's when the Klitschko's busted onto the scene for as long as they did, and they were constantly fighting smaller guys. Tyson Fury was always bigger, would be able to lean, he would hold and punch a little bit. It took him a long time to deliver his jab correctly. He was delivering his jab from below his waist, and by the time it would hit his opponent, but that's because he was fighting smaller guys. You know, you can't deliver a jab like that against Anthony Joshua. So, listen, time will tell. Anyway, you know, last week we were talking about a possible fight between Koki Kamada and the guy who beat him in Pongsaglett Wangjiangkam. And they were talking about the fight, the date, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the Japanese Boxing Commission said nay. They said that they will not approve the fight between Kamada and Wangjiangkam. And the reason is because they have a rule that says once you're retired from the sport of boxing, they will not let you fight unless you had a fight within 3 years. If it's more than 3 years, then you're not allowed to fight anymore. So they nixed that. So we'll see what happens. They wanted it to be a real fight, not an exhibition, because they could certainly get away with it if it was an exhibition. I got some emails. First one's from my man Johnston. He says, "Hey, Billy C. and Sal. After watching DeGale and Truax and Hurd and Lara twice," he puts, which is a great fight, by the way, "I noticed more controversial scoring. The scorecards I referred to are related to the DeGale-Truax fight. In the 10th round, DeGale was unfairly judged to have used excessive use of his forearm. Now, he was warned by the referee, Robert Byrd, before he took the point away, but he got it wrong, in his opinion, in Johnson's opinion. It was actually his shoulder that he used to maneuver away from Truax, which was not in any way an illegal move." I agree with that. He did use his shoulder, but you are not allowed to use your shoulder as a punch. But that particular thing where he got his point, and the warning, if you go back and watch the warning, it was also his shoulder. Byrd, that's what I was telling you. Byrd needs to go do something else because he's not a great referee. He's not. He says, "What I found interesting was that all three judges scored around 10-9 to Truax. For me, DeGale was having one of the better rounds and was up on the scorecards before the deduction. I actually ended up scoring the round 9-9 and ended with DeGale winning the fight 115-112. I found it's interesting, as you and Larry have both mentioned something similar on the show. When a fighter is dominating a round and gets knocked down, of course the round scored is not as much of a drastic swing, but a swing nevertheless. Another point that I discovered was on the punch stats, which I didn't record DeGale's body punches in the 10th. The Londoner hit the body on the retreat, which was not being counted as a punch, plus some of Truax's shots that were recorded as landed were actually blocked. This was my point about the Jarrett Hurd fight, too, by the way, about those punch shots. That's why you can't go by them. Jim Lampley has lost his ability to call a fight because he goes by what the punch stats say. And it's two guys. It's their subjective opinion. And half of them don't know a fish hook from a left hook. So, anyway, he says another point that I discovered. I read that. He says, thankfully, James won the fight. And it was a scrappy and certainly not a convincing like he promised. What were your thoughts? How did you score the round? How big did Hurd look? It was like a middleweight against a welterweight. It was like a heavyweight against a middleweight. You make a great point, and Larry talks about this all the time about the scoring and how unrealistic it can be when you get to the scorecards at the end of the fight. You know, when you have a fighter that conceivably is winning a round, like Johnston suggests here with DeGale, and then he gets deducted a point, all three judges ended up scoring that 10-9 in his favor. The only way that would be justified is if they went into that round thinking it was even and they were scoring at 10-10. The way you're supposed to do a scoring of a round is score the round first, then take the points away for a knockdown or a deduction of points. So in this case, if you scored the round the way Johnston did, in my opinion, it was correct. If DeGale won that round, you would score at 10-9. Then you take the point that was deducted away from DeGale, from the referee, and it becomes a 9-9 round. What's your thoughts, Sal?
You just spelled it right out, and that's about as simple and as about as clear and definitive as one could expect. And good job there. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree with you.
I agree with me. I agree with me.
I agree with me.
We got another email here. This is from my man Luke. He says, "Hey, gents, I certainly see your concern about the state of American boxing. We've said it repeatedly that Deontay Wilder clearly has terrible advisors around him. Well, in all honesty, boxing's supposed top star in Canelo clearly doesn't have much better in the way of how his advisors are advising him. Now let's think for a second. There's no way that the laboratory that tested Canelo came back with a failed test and instantly went public. They would have let Golden Boy know, so they would have time to consult their legal team and everyone involved, and then develop their own statement to release to the public. And by the way, Luke, I know you're not from the U.S., but we also have what they call HIPAA laws, which prevent any kind of test result from being publicly, given out. The person that is being tested has the right to do what they want with those results, but the doctors and labs cannot give out those results. He says, now with that in mind, I can't believe for a second that Oscar De La Hoya didn't tell Canelo and his team that the fight on May 5th was dead. He must have known that regardless of whether Canelo is guilty or not, that there would no way be the fight on May 5th would be able to go ahead. There's no way the fight would be able to go ahead. Just imagine Canelo walking into the ring on May 5th to a shower of booze, then one of two possibilities. If he won, there is no way anyone would believe the result was fair, and if he lost, his career and reputation would still be in tatters. Whether or not he's innocent or guilty, the first thing that should have happened was De La Hoya telling his team to release a statement stating that Canelo was going to go dark on social media and work with everyone involved to find out exactly what happened here. Now, I'm not naive. I know it's all about the money, but the moment that the test was failed, that was the end of the fight. Yet here we are with Triple G, who is the real victim here, scratching around trying to find a worthy opponent. We have the network still trying to make it Cinco de Mayo holiday fight by trying to hunt down a decent Mexican fighter, then charge a pay-per-view, which is also a mistake. It's greed again. He says, I genuinely can't imagine, say, Anthony Joshua failing a drug test and Eddie Hearn wheeling him out in front of the Wembley Stadium for a big fight. I just can't believe he'd be that stupid. Also, did you notice how not only Kell Brook got in Spencer's face, he was called out by Jermell Charlo and mentioned that his next possible opponent for Jarrett Hurd, and he did this without pulling the WWE jumping in the ring move, and he did this without pulling the WWE jumping in the ring and pulling that same move. Billy, the UK is where you need to be, my friend. Yeah, well, get us there. Hey, we've been telling people, get us there. All you big guys out in the UK, get us there, right? But what's your thoughts on the email, Sal? I mean, I think he's right.
I think he's right on. I mean, that's what we're trying to say. I mean, the sport of boxing has got to really police itself and look at what the truth of the matter is going on here and give it to the fans the way it should be. And I think he's very strong with that email, and I agree with him.
Speaking of Triple G, it was his birthday yesterday. He turned 36 years old. Remember, old. And, if I'm Triple G, I fight on Cinco de Mayo. I don't even know why he wants it, but fight on Cinco de Mayo. Then book the fight for Billy Joe Saunders and walk away. There's no listen. You want to make an everlasting statement? Don't fight Canelo. There's no reason to. Canelo proved what he was. Hey, one of the best statements of the weekend came out, Sal. You know what it is?
You heard what I said?
No, not your statement. Oh. Dana White. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Dana White. I don't really follow him as much because I'm not a big MMA guy, but Dana White referred to Steven Espinosa the same guy that I said, you take a look at this guy. I mean, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but you take a look at this guy, and I notice women grabbing a hold of their kids, when he walks by. He looks like the guy you're not going to trust, right?
Easy.
Now, Dana White agrees with me. He called him a greasy, slimy rat. Apparently, they interviewed, what's his name? What's that guy's name? He was wearing a stupid red hat and looked like a total bozo. What's his name? Oh, I forgot him. He used to be a fighter. Oh, God, what's his name, Sal? Never fought anybody, in their prime. He always ran from people. Never stood in there and pulled a Lara. He claims he's the best ever. What was his name again? Oh,
Uncle
God.
Floyd?
Oh, that's right, Floyd. Floyd, that's right. Floyd Mayweather was being interviewed on Showtime the other night, and he says the only way that he may come back in the ring, but it's going to be in the MMA ring, and he wants to fight Conor McGregor, which if he fought under regular MMA rules, I would love it. I would even buy it, because there's no way Floyd would beat him. But Floyd would also, because he's such a petunia, would never get in the ring anyway unless he altered all the rules. So let's not even talk about that.
Well,
but
I'd like to see how this plays out. I would like to see how it plays out.
Well, I'll tell you how it's not going to play out.
I give Floyd a lot of credit.
Yeah.
If he steps in a ring against a worthy opponent in an MMA arena, I will give him a lot of credit.
Yeah. Well, don't start giving him any credit yet, because unless he steps in an MMA ring under MMA rules, it means nothing. It's almost as much of a farce as when the gutless, spineless piece of garbage Bob Bennett let Conor McGregor make a pro debut against a 49-0 fighter. Let's just be real. If people are stupid enough to really think that this is on the level, then I feel for you, okay? But here's they were talking about it, and Dana White says, because Espinosa was saying that blah blah blah, Floyd Mayweather, fight this, Dana White, and then he was saying how they were Espinosa was criticizing the UFC card that was going on, the UFC 223 post-fight conference, and Steven Espinosa was actually criticizing the matchups, and Dana White says, I don't want to give this guy any publicity because he loves it, but that greasy, slimy rat, Steven Espinosa, talking about how we break the rules and all this other SH, with the T at the end. Oh my God, just trying to be HBO, referring to Steven Espinosa. And don't worry about what the F we're doing, you slimy little rat, Dana White says. He says, and all this while, Floyd saying that if the fight happens in an MMA ring, it's going to be on Showtime. And Dana White, as far as that, said, that ain't happening. We're going to do it on HBO if it happens at all. But kudos to Dana White calling Steven Espinosa a greasy, slimy rat, because you know what, Sal? I agree with him 100%.
Wow. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how this plays out.
Well, if you really think that that Floyd Mayweather would step in the ring under normal MMA rules, do you think that?
I don't think he can change the rules of MMA. I don't think we're going to have a new evolving sport predicated on what Floyd Mayweather wants versus what is in place. So I think that if Floyd Mayweather is serious and he is going to throw his hat in the MMA arena, I think he's going to have to do so with the rules and the regulations as they are. I think they will be very careful in choosing his first opponent, and I don't think it'll be Conor McGregor. In fact, Conor McGregor's got more things to worry about right now. So I can't say that I agree with you as far as the rules are going to be altered to suit Floyd Mayweather. I think he's going to have to go into the ring with the MMA rules in place and the laws and rules and regulations. And like I said, I'll give him credit. He's going to uncharted waters, uncharted territory, and if he's willing to try and do something, hey, all I could say is I'll like to look at that fight and see what happens.
Let me start off by saying this. I agree with you about what is supposed to happen. And I would be the first to give him the kudos and credits too. If he got into an MMA ring and fought a couple of MMA fights and did well and worked his way to Conor McGregor, I would be, to be honest with you, I'd be his biggest fan, because that would show me a lot about a man that I think is a smokescreen. All right, but that's not what's going to happen, Sal. And you're leaving reality. Your point is what should happen.
The first time.
Your point is what should happen, and I agree with you. That's what should happen.
Based on facts and based on what should be.
But that's not what would happen, because Floyd doesn't do things like that. You see, Floyd Mayweather, and he's no different than any other superstar athlete that thinks they're above the rules and regulations. And that is Floyd Mayweather persona. That's 100% what he thinks. And the money that would be generated to see Floyd Mayweather fight Conor McGregor in a cage would be astronomical. And that's what he's banking on, to be able to get rules twisted in his favor because of the amount of money that the fight would generate. I'll tell you right now that there's no way that Floyd Mayweather gets in a ring with Conor McGregor being allowed to use a ground game of any kind. And if that were the case, the only difference that you're going to see is that they're fighting in a cage versus a ring. Because if Floyd did fight under normal MMA rules, like you suggest that he would, I would become Floyd's biggest fan. I really would. But that's not he's not a man. He's a con man. He's not a man. That's why he smacks women around and everything else. I tell you, I would become his biggest fan if he did it by the book, but I guarantee you he wouldn't. And so far, maybe Conor McGregor gets kicked out of the UFC and they go fight under Bellator or something. I don't know. Doesn't have to be UFC. All Floyd cares about is that he fights Conor for big bucks, $100 million. And that's what they're shooting for, Sal, the money.
Well, I agree with you, because it's the big hoopla. I mean, they have enough popularity that they can generate that kind of revenue and that kind of money for themselves in a big form of a purse. But I will tell you this, like I suggested, and pretty much you and I predicted, the outcome of the Floyd Mayweather-Conor McGregor farce. Floyd, I think, would be destroyed if it was all up and with all the rules and regulations that Conor McGregor is used to doing and fighting by. I would see the exact same thing happen on that different turf in Conor McGregor's world.
Yeah, well, you know what? If like I said, I've always criticized Floyd for not doing things that great champions do, which, challenging himself, a la Sugar Ray Leonard coming out fighting Hagler, even Sugar Ray Robinson fighting Joey Maxim, et cetera, et cetera. John, when you have Roy Jones Jr. fighting John Ruiz and winning the heavyweight title, I mean, that's what great fighters do, right? Floyd has never done that. But if Floyd did come out of retirement and fought in an MMA cage under MMA rules, that, my friends, win, lose, or draw, would be something that I would respect the man for 100%. There's no question about that. And I think that many people would have to agree with that, don't you think?
Oh, I think 100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This guy, he'll challenge himself. And, I give a different pass or different spin on Floyd, aside, like we have heard with the outside of the ring kind of confrontations and fights, I don't agree with. But, if I looked at Floyd early on in his career, he was more in the pocket. He was more in the exchange. He was more of an exciting fighter. But you gotta, I gotta empathize. I gotta see where he was. And during that time, that's where a lot of fighters were becoming their diagnosis and their after effects and ill effects after their sport of boxing became more prominent. More of a talk about, what used to be called punchy or pugilistic dementia has now become something that more fighters are becoming aware of. Some of them are throwing caution to the wind. They're still fighting, and they're doing what they can do because they're fighting with their heart, their spirit, their soul, like I did, and everything else. And the prize is always worth the price. Well, what if Floyd, as the prize was always worth the price, re-looked at everything and said, hey, when I'm older, I want to be able to play with my grandchildren. When I'm older, I want to do other things. So what I'm going to do is maybe stay a little less time in the pocket and just become a defensive fighter, being evasive and hit and not be hit. I'm just saying, I try to empathize and look at the situation on a macro view, not a micro view. And if I looked at Floyd, and that was his decision to maybe play tag. Hey, I hit you, you can't hit me. I give him all the credit in the world. That's it, aside from his antics outside the ring. I don't agree with that. But if he was the kind of fighter that said, hey, I'm just going to hit my opponent and I'm going to slip and get out of the way, that's the name of the game for me because I want to have a long life and be able to do things later on when I'm 80 years old. Maybe that...
I presented like that, Sal, you're right. But don't tell me you're the best ever. Because the best ever doesn't do that, and I'm not saying doesn't do that to try to preserve themselves. The true definition of the sweet science is hit and not get hit, but be in position to inflict damage on your opponent. That's one thing that he was not able to do because, just like you mentioned, hit his opponent, slips a punch. He's slipping because he's backpedaling 20 feet away, 15 feet away. That's not the sweet science. The sweet science is being right there, having your opponent miss you because they're in range and you're avoiding the punch. You're hitting them and they can't hit you and you're both in range of hitting each other. That, my friend, is the sweet science. But I agree with you. I don't knock Floyd for choosing that style or being as successful financially as he was. What I knock him for is claiming that he's the best. That's not the best. He was never the best. In his mind, he may be the best of his generation. Yes, let's give him that. But he's not the best ever. There's no question that he's not the best ever. As a matter of fact, if I had to make my top all-time great top 25 right now, which I normally don't do until a fighter's out of the ring for 5 years, he's at number 24, 25. He's not in the top 10. He's not. He's not. And in this day and age of all these titles out, he only unified the titles, I think, once or twice. And I'm saying unified, not all of them, just fought for more than one. So no, I'm sorry. I can't even accept when people mention that he's the best ever. It just irks me. It drives me insane. I'm surprised it doesn't bother you, man.
Well, no, because like I said, I look at Floyd from the standpoint and the prism that I just suggested. I mean, those were one of the reasons why I chose to retire at 28 when I was on top of my game. I mean, like I said, when I first got my ranking and the doctor said, hey, how old are you? I said, I'm 26. He said, well, I'm on the medical board of Muhammad Ali. And we are realizing now that by the age of 28, maybe you should think about retiring if you want to grow old, spend time with grandchildren, conquer other quests and challenges, and maybe you'll be able to do that. Because what we're finding is after the age of 28, your brain doesn't have the fluid it used to have in case to act as a cushion when your brain gets bounced off your skull. And that's where a lot of the damage occurred to Muhammad Ali after the age of 28. So, hey, I decided to look at my life a little differently. I realized it at that point. My father tapped my head on his finger on my shoulder. Hey, Sal, it's 2 years later. We're 28. You're 28. What do you want to do? And, I looked at it and I said, well, you know what, Dad, I want to go on and I want to fight. But, a fighter has to look at things differently. Could I have become more of a defensive fighter, hit, run, move, and box? Yeah, maybe I could have. But I decided to take another route that time. So Floyd may have assessed himself right then and there. And I think, if he did so, and that's the prism I'm looking at, I think he's a genius on that level. He's a marketing genius, and maybe he's one of the best at that, because he's had a fan base and he's had support and he's had an income revenue that we really haven't seen in a lot of champions. Now, do I agree with you? Do I think I don't think he could have gotten past a Tommy Hearns, a Sugar Ray Leonard, a Roberto Duran, many other fighters. I think would have knocked him out or chewed him up and won. But that's neither going to be a reality that we're going to find out. But I do agree that he definitely would not have fallen in the top 5.
Top 5? No, I'm saying he would. I'm saying top 5. What are you talking about? You missed top 5.
I gotta.
Come on. What are you,
I can rap out another 5.
Yeah, but add another 20 to that. No, listen. In Floyd's defense,
I give Floyd some defense.
Listen, I give Floyd. Everyone thinks I hate him. Well, I don't particularly care for the man. Okay. But for what he was able to do in terms of money and everything, which I don't think should be that should not be taken in consideration about his all-time great stature. I just don't think that because he made so much money that his status of an all-time great moves him up to number 1. Nah, I'm sorry, it doesn't. But unfortunately, we don't have a time machine. But I'm with you. Even the fighters in the era of the 80s, which, we look at as the last great era, and during the 80s, I laughed when people said, if somebody would have said that, I would have laughed, because there was so many better eras prior to the 80s. But the 80s, at least, are a connection of the past and what we're in today, meaning that we had fighters that were polished in terms of boxing ability, and yet they were willing to put it all on the line like the sluggers of yesteryear did. And that's why it goes down as one of the greatest eras of the sport. Floyd Mayweather didn't go after other champions in their primes. Sugar Shane Mosley is a guy that comes to mind. He waited till Sugar was, melted by the time he fought him. Oscar De La Hoya, for all intent purposes, beat him, but his own corner let him down by telling him to take his foot off the gas. Listen, Floyd is Floyd. He was a good businessman. It irks me when people say he was the best ever, because he wasn't. And the people that say he was the best ever never took the time to watch some of these great fighters. And I'm with you 100%. First of all, he wouldn't have even fought Hagler, because he could have fought Triple G. If he fought Triple G, and everyone says, oh, he's just a little guy. No, he's not. Triple G is the same. I think Floyd would look bigger in the ring. But if he would have fought Triple G, even if he lost, I would have given him more credit. But he's never done that. He's never thought outside the box. Everything has to be in his favor. The location, the ring size, the opponent, everything is in his favor. The one thing I always will give Floyd Mayweather credit for is he was always in great shape. He never let himself, even to this day, get out of shape. He doesn't, although he's a gambler and he pisses his money away on strippers and betting, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, he's not pissing his money away like that. So he's smart when it comes to that sense. He buys all these stupid cars that I don't know why he's doing that. And he's playing the game with the IRS, which is also a dumb move. Somebody said, oh, he does that because he saves money when they go to, make a deal with him to take less. That is the most ridiculous, dumbest statement I've ever seen, because one of these days they're not going to play that game. I know. I had a battle with the IRS that they haunted me for a decade, man. They're the worst. You don't want them on you, And this is probably why he's got to even consider fighting again. If you were right, here he does. He preserves himself for the style of his fighting. He's got more money than he could conceivably spend in the rest of his life, and yet he's still trying to get in the ring to make another $100 million. This guy is just addicted to the limelight. He can't let go, and you know what? It's going to end badly for him. He's going to end up getting really hurt in the ring. And I mean that with all sincerity.
Well, I certainly hope not. And I'll tell you what. I think, if you look at from a business standpoint, Floyd understands the business of boxing, and he has tried to preserve the longevity and sustain a level of income or money that is setting records. And so from that standpoint, looking at a businessman in the sport of boxing, he's maximized what he can do in one lifetime, in one career. So I give him credit for that. That's all I could tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is, I can't believe that a lot of young fans today put Floyd, when they talk about Floyd, when they say to me, do you think Floyd's the best ever? I laugh at them and say, no. I said, do you? And a lot of the young fans will say yes. I say, why? And they tell me two things. The answer is always two answers. First is he's undefeated, never been beaten. And two, he made the most money. How does that transcribe into being the best ever? The undefeated, you got a point there. Not that it's 50. Many fighters have surpassed 50-0 before losing the first time. And guess what? If Floyd loses a fight, if he comes back because he needs money and he loses a fight, that whole 50-0 goes out the window, just like Julio Cesar Chavez and all the rest that surpassed 50 wins before losing for the first time. No, it's tough. Hey, I think if you had to put, and I will be the first to admit this, if somebody said, "Hey, Bill, what was the worst? Who do you dislike out of all the fighters that you've ever watched or even learned about? Who do you dislike the most?" Floyd Mayweather has to be the first guy that comes to mind, and I'll admit it. I don't like Floyd Mayweather the person. The fighter, I give him credit for.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that I dislike. I really can't. I like all fighters. I respect them. I don't like when they do their antics outside the ring. They're illegal. No, I don't justify or rectify or accept that. That's not right. But when they live on the up and up, they're trying to make a living. They're scrapping, scraping, and maybe making a successful story. Yeah, I credit that all the way.
That's another thing that he always says. I came up from nothing. I came from the street. No, you didn't. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His father, although his father was, had some substance abuse issues, alcohol, drugs, whatever. Floyd never did without. He never did without. Anyway. All right, we had the trivia question last week, and I thought that all these so-called knowledgeable people that keep telling me how smart they are in the different chat rooms and stuff, they were dying for a trivia question, and I gave one, and it was pretty tough. I do admit. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys this: if you're going to be, part of getting our trivia questions correct, be ready for hard ones, because these aren't easy.
Are hard.
These aren't easy ones. And the idea that you can go and Google and everything else, you don't think we've thought of that? Come on, man. Now,
I've tried to Google.
Yeah, of course everyone did, right? But here's the truth. We are going to give away, and I got a bunch of prizes already to start giving away, because we did the trivia question every day for years and years and years, and I stopped for a little bit. But it's back because, I'm specifically, I think we got a whole new group of knowledgeable people in the sport. So, and specifically, I got his handle, Scholar of Boxing, was bragging one time. I watched him in the chat room saying that he thought he was the smartest boxing knowledge-wise of all the other people in the chat, and I laughed to myself, because, everybody is an expert, and he wants to know the question. Hey, what's the question? What's the question? And I was like, okay, we're going to start doing the question. Well, I don't know what his real name is, so I don't know if he tried to answer this question correctly or not. But today I'm going to give a hint. So if you're the first one, and you have to email, If you're the first one to email us the correct answer, and you have to email Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TALKIN and then BOXING.com. If you're the first one to email us the correct answer, you're going to win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. This is the same game that Alex Perpali uses for our Blast from the Past segment. The question is, name the fighter who fought the most fights from the start of his career before being defeated by a stoppage, okay? It doesn't mean his first loss. It means first stoppage. Now, I've gotten a lot of answers, so I'm going to give you guys some hints right now. It was not Julio Cesar Chavez. It was not, who else did they put in there? Some people, I think Sugar Ray Robinson was an answer. That was wrong. Who was that flyweight champion from England that coach is always telling me? I can't think of his name. Jimmy Wild. That wasn't him. My hint is that this guy was never a world champion. He was never a world champion. So if you're the first one to guess this answer correctly by emailing me, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win the prize. We go by the timestamp, so if we get more than one correct answer, we're going with the first one that came in. So I'll do the question one more time. Name the boxer who fought the most fights from the start of his career before being defeated by way of stoppage. If you're the first one to answer this correctly by emailing me, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win the prize. Good luck to everyone on that. I know it's a tough one, but we got more. So you want to challenge your knowledge, this is the way to do it. Who was the first, name the boxer who fought the most fights before being stopped for the first time in his career. If we don't get a winner, I'll give you another hint tomorrow. But this guy was never a world champion, by the way. Coach is going to get it now. You watch.
A coach is going to get it.
Yeah, he'll get it because and you know what? I want to give another shout out to everyone that tried, and they're asking me, does this include amateur fights? No, this is only as a pro. But I also want to point out something. You know what I really appreciate, and maybe I'm wrong, but the way it looked to me was that all the people that answered this question, and we had a lot of them, genuinely looked like they were just using from their own knowledge base, their own mind. Because the reason why I think that is because a lot of the names were the same. A lot of the fighters that they were choosing were the same. If somebody was, trying to get it a different way, Siri, who fought the most fights before, trying to do something like that. They probably would. But I appreciate everyone that tried and got it wrong, but try again. And like I said, don't assume somebody got it. Just first one gets the prize. On this day, April 9th, in boxing history, in 1988, Evander Holyfield knocks out Carlos de Leon in the 8th round to win the WBC World Cruiserweight title, and he unified the Cruiserweight division in Las Vegas on this day in 1988. On this day in 1981, Samuel Serrano wins a 15-round decision over Yasuni Ubara to regain the WBA junior lightweight title, and that took place in Japan. On this day in 1984, Gabriel Bernal knocks out Koji Kobayashi in the 2nd round to win the WBC flyweight title, and that took place in Tokyo. On this day in 1928, Corporal Izzy Schwartz wins a 15-round decision over Routier Para to retain his world flyweight title at the St. Nick's Arena in New York City. Popular venue for fights, St. Nick's Arena.
Absolutely.
And finally, on this day, April 9th, in 1935, one of, in my opinions, one of the best fighters of all time. Barney Ross wins a 12-round decision over Henry Woods to retain his world junior welterweight title in Seattle, Washington. Barney Ross would vacate his title so he could challenge Jimmy McLarnin for the world welterweight title in his next fight, which Ross won via a 15-round decision on May 28th in 1935 at the Polo Grounds in Brooklyn, New York. Barney Ross was a great fighter. He really was. And a World War II hero, by the way.
Yes, he was.
But anyway, hey, listen, boys and girls, don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.